Welcome to another episode of Ronin Talk. We're 10 deep now.
10 deep.
10 deep. Do you remember that clothing brand?
No.
Do you never wore 10 deep?
Is it a Toronto brand?
No, it's from the States.
I do not remember.
10
that.
deep. Shout out 10 deep, man. I'm gonna look online and see if you guys still sell stuff.
Probably not.
All right then.
Yeah,
All right, guys.
bro.
Welcome, Sean the Potential Allen,
Andrew the Beast Tyson.
and we got Ben Askren.
Ben Askren. Thank you, Lord, for bringing my guy to the US.
I want him to win everything.
Midwest boy. Yes.
I need. So there's so much to start with him. Where are we gonna go?
So he was an absolute star at this press conference. He was the best part of the
100%.
UFC 235 press conference. First, we're going to talk about him squashing his beef with Dana, which was huge.
We got from
I don't
Ben
think
kind
it's
of
fully sponsored.
what it's like for him to be up there. What about for you? What's it like? It seems like you're cracking a smile, enjoying him being up there. What's it like after all this? Having been asking him.
Yeah, it's great. Listen, I'm the one that wanted to bring Ben Askren into the UFC. I made this decision. He's here.
That's a lie.
He's a
The beast
UFC
not
fighter, and
that was a lie. He didn't want to.
We're cool. I'm cool anyway. Sure. There you go. 2 thumbs up. We're good.
I'm good also. All I need is opportunity. As long as you don't prevent the opportunity, we're great.
That was a warning.
Hey man, as long as people.
That was a low key, like, I will act a fool. All right,
Nah, dude, that's not squash. That's like, it's not squash. You just know that business is involved now.
Now, another part of the clip that will go into his whole mindset, which this is very interesting to me, so we'll go into this part next.
How soon do you think we can see Habib back in the cage? And how soon do you think we can see Habib back in the cage? And is it possible it would happen here in Nevada? Because it sounds like he's saying maybe that he doesn't want that either.
Right, yeah, no, I haven't talked to them yet, but yeah, we'll get it figured out.
You know, America Russia is always a great storyline. It always is. From like since the Cold War, America and Russia. Think about that. Think about how it sells. Think about that.
165. 165 isn't happening.
By that point, we're gonna have 20-0 Ben Askren versus 27-0 Khabib. Someone's O's got to go. America versus Russia. I will get on his back and I will chant USA.
And he said you get on his back and chant USA.
Now, this is one thing I will say. A lot of people bring up the fact that they're not fans that he's so focused on other people, other fights, right? Mm-hmm. So he has ruthless Robbie Lawler on his plate.
Yeah.
Is he a little too distracted with this whole I want a 165 division, like his little beef with Kamaru Usman, which we have to play that as well real quick.
Yeah.
Because this is just goes into this
While you pull that up, I am concerned a little bit. You know, we have seen people underestimate Robbie before, mainly when he came back and beat everyone's ass to win the title.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, well, I'll let this play and then give some backdrop.
Me and Marty sitting next to each other?
Me and Marty.
Marty, you know me? Be quiet. Okay. I offered to fight you. I mean, there's not much more to be said there.
All right, so for people who don't know, Kamaru Usman, who's fighting Tyron Woodley, which was Ben Askren's college teammate at Mizzou.
And
Shout out
current
Mizzou.
teammate now.
Current teammate. He's actually Tyron Woodley's wrestling coach at Rufus Sport. They've been having a back and forth because supposedly, I wasn't there, Kamaru used to go by Marty from Nebraska. Now, he didn't go by Marty from Nebraska, but he wrestled in Nebraska. And I guess before he, really took on his African roots, he used to go by Marty. And Ben Askren's been trolling him a little bit, basically saying like, this whole tough guy Kamaru, this, that, is like it's a persona, and really he's just Marty. He's just Marty to Ben. And Ben has that wrestling pedigree, basically saying like, hey, when I was winning national championships.
There's an African guy named Marty.
Now listen, we do know a lot of guys when they come from other countries, and this is full of guys in Toronto, we know a few, who, their name is a little too tough to say, so they'll change it up to like something like Harry or something.
Y'all don't get that joke.
But, so I could see, I lived in the Midwest for a while, I wrestled, I could see if my name was Kamaru. Yeah, see, even I'm sure.
Sounds like a Pokemon.
I can see myself trying to maybe, get a shorter version or easier version, so Marty, right? So he's making a joke out of, I know you as Marty from Nebraska. You're just, you were Marty, you were okay wrestling, but you're never on my level. basically saying, humble yourself, my teammate's going to beat you up. So for me, I love the trolling. There was some very funny parts of the press conference that just absolutely had me dying. Parts between Tyron Woodley and Kamaru Marty. And basically it was like Kamaru was getting tag teamed by both Woodley and Askren the entire time because Robbie Lawler isn't going to give you too much of the back and forth.
He's going to give you zero dialogue.
He's going to give you that X and O. He's going to give you that fight night like explosion. But in terms of lead up, he's not very much of a talker.
Yeah.
Nice guy, respectful.
Fair enough. His fighting style does it for him.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
we
exactly.
know what we're going to get, so we don't need to hear him talk.
Exactly.
Right?
So the best parts of this press conference was the back and forth between Kamaru and Tyrone, and then the way Ben was just on everybody's head, making jokes with Dana, going after Khabib, attacking Marty, making jokes about Kobe Covington. So is he a little distracted? Like Kamaru one time made a point like, hey, we get it, you're here, you're excited, your favorite fighters, which, you know, I see where he's coming from. He wasn't in the UFC, but the guy's an Olympian, right? He's competed high level.
Right.
Is he a little too distracted by the attention? Is he forgetting what got him there?
I think it's yes and no, because there's a couple things you got to look at. One, he thoroughly does believe that Marty's gonna lose to.
As he should. I agree.
Tyron.
I'm tired of that fight.
You got to realize he's also the reason why he's pushing for that 165. He's not gonna fight Tyron.
No,
he refuses to fight Tyron,
and
he's getting up there in age.
Yeah.
Granted, has he taken the level of damage MMA wise?
At all?
No.
He's
But
only 34 years old.
but he still has a wrestler's body.
Yeah, exactly.
He still has a wrestler's body.
And a jiu-jitsu.
And you got to realize it's just like, okay, he's like, dude, I'm here now. I'm here years after I should have been here. It's time to make haste. Now, at the same time, it's just like, okay, you got to remember, you're still going to get punched in the face by Robbie Lawler. Now, I get it. I hope he's not distracted, but at the same time, I understand why he's making the push the way he
No, I
is.
do. He made it and he said, listen, like, people keep bringing it up, but like, training is training. When I'm training, I'm there for the fight. Like, I don't need to be obsessed with Robbie Lawler. And I agree. Connor's proven that. I don't need to be obsessed with my opponent. As long as I train hard, that's the only focus.
The flip side to that, we've seen guys who do get obsessed with their opponents.
Yeah.
John Jones and GSP are two of the guys that do that.
Yeah.
And look at their pedigrees.
It does go well, right?
So it's like there's a line you have to toe with that.
Now the flip side is a lot of people talk about him wanting that 65, and a lot of people say, oh, he'd go up to 85. Now this is an interesting thing.
He's too small for 85 in UFC.
Well, a lot of people have talked about how he does that same thing to a lot of bigger guys. He's done that stuff to 205ers in the training room, right? That's the rumor.
In the training room when they're not throwing strikes.
No, of course not, right? And we don't know that. Maybe it's through sparring. Now they said the same thing about Khabib. Remember that difference from 55 and 70 is 15 pounds as well.
That's huge.
And a lot of people do believe that Khabib could possibly come up and win a belt. One thing interesting about that, because we're going to the fights this weekend to UFC 234. People said like, dude, could he out wrestle a guy like Israel Sanzai if he gets the belt? Could he out wrestle a guy like Whitaker? I do believe so. Interestingly,
part of the division, yeah.
Interestingly, though, you have a guy, Yoel Romero, who I don't think he could do that to, who wasn't able to beat a guy like Whitaker. Now, this is something we've gone into when we talk about the Aaron Pico thing.
Yeah.
Is it because Ben is obsessed with the takedown that he is able, like, if Yoel Romero was as obsessed with taking people down, would he lose any fights by now? I've said it, I don't think so. I think if he made it a point to be as obsessed with the takedown as Ben Askren is, he would be undefeated, just like Aaron Pico, in my opinion, if he was as obsessed with the takedown, right?
Right.
So matchups make fights. But what does happen if they don't give him the 165 division? Like, you're now in the UFC. I believe he's going to beat Robbie. I believe he can beat Kobe. I'm like, do you pull the DC move? Because DC went down.
Yeah.
And then went back up and got his belt because of what?
Can Askren make 55?
No, of course not. And that's the point. So what is the game plan if you win these fights and you have your teammate winning these fights? Because Tyron's talked about going to 85, but that's because he wants to be a double champ. I don't believe it's because he wants to just vacate the belt.
No.
Now, maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, you're not wrong.
He would be an undersized 85er. I don't know about him beating the Yoel Romero's of that division. I think athletically...
See, here's what I think. Here's what I think. I think at 85 is a weird division. If you look at 85 as a whole, the top guys in it, there's half of the division that a welterweight can go up and arguably beat. There's another half of the division where like that echelon that involves Yoel Romero, Chris Weidman, where I don't see 70s going up and doing that.
Well, because it's a style make matchup thing. Like,
exactly.
So like a guy like Askren, I think could take down all these guys, but then there's those guys who, even though they're not the champ, I think they're not the champ because of a choice in style. I think it's a choice of, I'm not obsessed with the takedown. I don't believe any of these guys, like for instance that Robert Whittaker fight, when he hurt his knee, when y'all hurt his knee, if he was as obsessed with the takedown as Ben, he could have taken him down and won that fight. I think he let the championship slip through his hands, my personal opinion. The second fight, Whittaker's hand was broken. He hurt him multiple times, and what he kept doing, he kept going for the knockout. Once again, I think Yoel let the championship slip through his hands.
Sure.
I've said that about guys like Luke Rockhold. Guys who, the minute the fight goes to the ground, it's over, yet he's obsessed with the knockout. And yet what happens is he gets knocked out. So that's what makes this Ben Askren thing interesting. Like, if he isn't able to fight for the 170 belt, what do you do? Do you become
Here's honestly what I think happens. I think Ben is playing this very intelligent with all the shit and hype.
Oh, it's genius. I'm
so
loving it.
To me, this is what happens. Ben and Tyron go out, have stellar performances, win. I think Tyron Woodley now, after his performance with Darren Till, is looked at a lot different because the way he went out there, picked him apart. That might have been his easiest fight in the UFC. That might have been his easy. So
the way he beat Robbie, that was like nothing. It was
the way he took out Robbie, definitely. That was ridiculous. But those two to have them have great performances, I think it puts Dana in a position now where 165, a lot of people forget, was talked about 15 years ago. It was talked about 10 years ago.
Connor's talked about it.
It was talked about even a couple years ago. So I think now what you do is that Ben gets that win, more and more hype. You can sell him versus Covington, him versus Khabib. I think Ben needs to get this win for Dana to see, okay, 65. Because we've seen Dana say, oh, women's aren't happening.
Well, this is another thing that's happened, right? So he's talked about now, if we make, he said, oh, it would ruin the 70. Well, no, you can make it 75 every 10 weight classes.
Yeah.
Right? So 65, 75, 85. Because this is another interesting thing. Ben's a smart guy. He brought this up. He goes, if you look at the 170, 150 division, there's something like 100 fighters on the roster. He goes, if you split that into three, it's still the three biggest divisions. I didn't know that. So he's basically saying is if you made a 155, a 165, and a 170, those two divisions, 155 and 170, split into three, divided by three evenly, are still the three biggest divisions. He brought up how small the 125 is, how small the 135 is, how the 185 is slowly dissipating as well. Guys are either going up, going down,
or out.
Heavyweight, it's a weird weight class. I don't know how many guys they have, but it doesn't seem like they have a lot of guys at heavyweight. It feels like there's a lot of guys, but nobody worth talking about.
They have literally like, I think anywhere from 17 to 20 guys.
Yeah, that's not a lot. And then they bring up the women's division. He said there's some divisions that don't even have 10 fighters.
Yeah, 25 doesn't have 10 fighters.
So, and like I said, I like the idea of every 10 pounds. I never understood the 15-pound jump. I even like a 195. Yeah. Now, the one thing I will say...
And 190, a lot of people don't know this, 195 was almost a division.
And it should have been. I don't like the idea
They couldn't fill it at the time.
I don't like the idea of that 20-pound jump, 15-pound jump. The only thing I will say, I do think at this stage, because of how historic that 170-pound and 150-pound division has been, I do believe a 165 belt becomes diminished. I believe by default you almost have to beat whoever the actual, especially if it's a new champion. I think it doesn't mean as much. Like if Khabib wins that, it doesn't mean as much as if he comes up and beats Tyrone. If Ben wins it, it doesn't mean as much because you're beating a guy who's a 155.
But here's the thing: people got short-term memory. The right marketing and the right fights will erase that.
I will say this: you let Dustin Poirier get in there, you let Nate or Nick Diaz get in there, you let Connor get in there. Yeah. You definitely have fights to make, right? So it's an interesting thing. So let's talk about this UFC 234. Your boy Israel.
Yeah.
I think before was picking. I think he's gonna beat Anderson, but I want Anderson to win. But after watching the countdown, I want to see what kind of pizzazz he's trying to bring to the sport. And I want to kind of see what he's talking about. I want to see what he's going to do after he wins. Because I think it's deeper than something to a fight. I think he's going to come out, if you get my point, with something.
At the end of the day, the way I'm going to look at this is going to be a great fight. my biggest concern, here's the thing, you always want to see legends win, but you always want to see the young lions take over.
Of course.
I am somewhat interested in what this huge thing is.
Because I wanted Anderson to win, but I was picking Israel. But now I really want to know, like,
But
when is he going to come out?
One thing I am going to say, speaking about the fight, one thing I am going to say with Anderson, where he's going to be in trouble, is that if he approaches this Israel fight with the same striking mechanics that he did with the Michael Bisping fight, where he's looking for the more meaningful shots and doesn't worry about volume, he's going to lose very quickly.
Well, no, I will say that, no, you know why I disagree with that? Because Bisping is a cardio volume freak. He'll beat you off of volume. I think he got knocked out. I think
He did.
I think that was nonsense.
He did.
So that's one thing that's not fair. And I think the thing with Israel is because his fight style is so like unorthodox, he catches guys in their orthodox stance. He watches that plotting style. He watches certain combos put together.
Right.
He's able to catch you. I think the only way Anderson wins is by something spectacular. I don't think he can go out there and be. I think he has to be spotted. I think he has to.
But that's what I'm saying. We need the spider. We don't need the version that fought Michael Bisping. I'm sorry, that was too reserved.
No, but
that was way too reserved.
But it's a style matchup thing. Like Bisping was beating with a bunch of punches. Israel and him are gonna play that game. Now I'm picking Israel to win.
It is gonna be more
I
cerebral.
think he's a more athletic version. And I'm sorry, like he was one of those guys that broke my heart when I found out he was on PEDs. Like Anderson, like that's when he was the guy that when I said, okay, if you look like that and you're on PEDs, I don't know who's on it anymore. I don't know who's on it anymore. There's no way that I lied to myself thinking, oh, I can tell. No, I can't tell anymore.
Well, guys, you gotta remember, guys.
Mr. Picogram, John Jones. Like,
but PEDs can be such a like. There's things like Equitest or like what is it, EPO or whatever.
I don't know.
Where you don't look like it. It's cardio based. It helps
see
your
my
body.
point. Yeah, you see
so
my point.
you don't
So,
necessarily have to.
I think Israel's a younger, more athletic version, less injuries. So I'm picking him win. I'm really interested in this this announcement. That's gonna be such a big deal, right?
Yeah,
especially for that countdown. If you haven't watched the UFC 234 countdown, please go watch it. Israel, very interesting stuff going on. Anyway, on to the main event. Gastelum or Whitaker?
I'm taking Whitaker.
Yeah, me too.
I take Whitaker. That I think Whitaker's striking is more.
I think he's just a stronger mental. I think mentally he's a strong guy. I think Gastelum looks amazing when things are going his way. After watching the Weidman fight, the Woodley fight, I just see him break when things don't go his way. And I don't mean it that way because he doesn't break in that sense. I think it's like he's just not. I don't see him beating your.
To be honest with you, I wanted him to get one more fight before a title shot. I think
the division was too thin.
Yeah,
who else do you give it to other than him right now?
That's not hurt. Half that division's hurt.
Or gone, or coming off a loss. Israel is really. That's why Israel has to win this fight, right? Because who else do you give it to?
Well, and the thing is, they know the division's tight because if Anderson wins this, Dana has openly said,
"Oh, they have to
title
give it
shot.
They have to because there's nobody else." Luke is gone. Yoel's already taken his. Luke is gone. Weidman's taking a bunch of L's. Jacare's taking L's. Bisping is gone. GSP, that would have been interesting, but he was smart. Yeah. I'm gonna put that in there. Yeah. And he, by the way, has done a
test cut.
To 155. He's looking thin. He's training his wrestling a lot. So I think that I'm hearing that it's Khabib and him in New York. That's what they're saying because Khabib said he's not gonna fight in Nevada again. His suspension will be done by November, and he said he specifically wants to fight New York. We all know that GSP is all about that New York card.
Well, he's
right there in Montreal.
He's always out there too because Danaher's.
He's lost the weight, so I think that's the fight we're going to see. I don't think it's a Conor thing. I think Conor and Cowboy happens, and that's what Conor needs to do. He does not need any of that Khabib smoke right now.
Yeah.
After that big fine, the only thing that makes Khabib okay is another huge fight. That is the fight that could break the record between. I think it will break the him and Conor record just because of the GSP poll.
Canada versus Russia. That'd be very interesting.
So that's the fight I believe we're going to see Khabib in. I think that's a foregone conclusion. I don't know why at GSP's age, after all the money he made on the last fight, why you'd be test cutting to 55. You know how brutal that must have been?
God.
To do it just for the heck of it. That's how you know the man loves the sport, man. Like, for you to just let me see how it works out. Like that is brutal.
That leads back to my.
So for me, it's a foregone
my point earlier though about that obsessiveness.
The belt's already been offered to him because there's no way you do that without an assurance that you're getting that fight, and it's the perfect fight.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that all plays out. Like I said, cannot wait for that announcement. Gervonta Davis fights Saturday as well. we're not going to talk about this fight as much because the opponent he was supposed to get.
I forgot what's the guy's name? I actually saw him
detached
fight.
his retina.
Yeah,
he's a Robert Garcia guy.
The new guy that he's fighting. What's his name?
Ruiz.
Okay, I saw him fight like 2 years ago.
No, he's tough, but I think it's not the fight everybody wanted. I think it'll be easy work.
I don't know if
Robert Garcia is lining up a lot of these Mexican fighters to beat a lot of these freak athlete guys we think are the next thing, and that's why I wanted to see that fight.
Yeah.
Obviously, he has Mikey Garcia, who beat Robert Easter, who beat Adrian Broner. He's the guy who's got Mike Garcia now fighting Earl Spence. You know, he's the one who coached Maidana to beat Broner. So that fight was going to be interesting, but like I said, that happens on Saturday as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of interesting things. This Ben Askren stuff is gold. I'm so happy he's there.
I can't wait for this.
And
We're
this
throwing a
Israel
party.
Sunzai, like I cannot wait.
Call him Stylebender. You just butcher his name.
I know he can do no wrong. I wonder what he means by Stylebender. Like, what does he mean? Like bending styles? Like, what does
Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in.
like, what do you think
we
he's trying to
appreciate
tell us? It's like
all the feedback.
style.
As always, somewhere under here there is a
I
like,
have a certain
subscribe
style.
button.
I can make you
You
bend
can
it.
share
I
the
can make you do
video.
other things you wouldn't usually. I don't know. It's just I can't. wait
Have
to
you
do this.
ever shut up before?
Sorry. It's just,
Okay.
just wanna know.
Like, subscribe, share, give us feedback. Is there stuff that we're missing that you guys want us to talk about? Let us know.
Is Sean
Hit
in
us up.
denial about anything? Like, is there anything that Sean's missing? Just any of these things. Keep us.
Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.
Take heed, fuck these